so let's go into the second part. Question of Jeff: could one layer the planets on the environmental matrix? Is that the environment always depends on the points of reference? Because, for example, if we're talking about the Earth, Earth would say, well, myself, and then what is the environment for the Earth? The solar system. What I would say is that this is a logical fractal that we can always extrapolate it. But I'm not sure if I would concentrate the planets there. See, it's just that the point of reference of when you say I, what you mean? Okay, so it's are you a planet? No, you're a particular consciousness. Okay, or what do you consider environment? You see, because what's environment for the Earth? Well, it's also environment for us, but you see, what's environment for the Earth is a different kind of reach of what's environment for us. You know. So I would kind of say, well, first position yourself and then orient the rest. But there is a logical fractal in this, yeah? You see there's 9 fields, 9 planets, the 9 dimensions, the 9 planes. So, and within the whole we have each, you see, like the 9 is within this one, but it only takes up these 3 fields. So, okay, so let's start looking into each of them. Probably one of the things I would say is most kind of important to see is this knot. Let's take this one because it's the one that we're more familiar with. But we have this position in the middle that connects with the rest, yeah? Like if it was a center of administration of that area. So it's different, the center of administration of the area that we could say communication with others, than the center of administration of the communication with oneself, or the center of administration of communication with the environment, yeah? So in this one we have 5, yeah, which the letter is E, yeah. So also on these it's the other way around, but this one is like the numbers first, the letters after. Yeah? This we could say is the conventional calculator we all use to talk about numbers, yeah. So it's like that's what is seen in the social relationships, yeah, in the interdependency. You see, this is another difference. Interdependency, and this is more autonomy. You see, the soul it's autonomous on itself. But now when it projects in a genetic projection, okay, there's interdependency taking place there. Yeah. Also that, and then here it's the N. Now, you see what's important about these centers is that within each calculator, they are going to create the phenomena of a constant of combination. A constant of combination, meaning if we take everything that crosses 5, because it's the nucleus of, it's like administrator, it's connected with all of them. 9 plus 1 is 10, yeah? 1 plus 9 is 10. 8 plus 2 is 10. 2 plus 8 is 10. Okay, so that it has a combination of 10. It's a combination of 10. And it has 8 possible combinations. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 possible combinations. That's what we call an octave of combination, like in music. So it has a possibility of combination within that octave. Yeah. Now, what is now it's different when we go to this one in the middle here. And one thing that changes is the number that's going to come out. So 18 plus 10 isn't 10 anymore. Now it's 28. See, so it has an internal combination constant. Okay. 10 is a creation, remember? I'll get into that now. And 28 is, well, it's various things, but 28, one thing that we can use it for, or see it as, in two ways, is that 28 is like a new A, because you have 27, and then 28 is a new A. So it's like a jump into a different octave, you see? So the soul can kind of help to stay in one octave or to jump to the next. It can help that process. That's, circuits for a new octave. Now, when we talk about a new octave, we're not canceling the one beneath it. That's how things grow. It's like transcend and include movement. So that's why the particular consciousness in its journey and in its book, the whole thing of the book, it is increasing its maturity. You see? So it's an agent of increasing maturity and of storing that maturity for this general consciousness. Yeah. Now, the combination that this one's going to have within it, it's different. It's not 28. Okay? It's not 28. It's going to be 46. And it's also going to have 8 possible combinations. Okay? So we have 46, 28, and 10 combinations. Now, 46, there's many ways of seeing this. Like 4 is the design, and 6 is its reach. 4 the design, and 6 in its reach. You see, where we best going to communicate this is always the one at the bottom, because it's the calculator of social convention. So there we can explain it better. You see, so 4 and its reach. 4 and its reach. That is a soul. A soul has a design, and that design has a reach. Now, what can increase, and that's why 4 and 6 are these fields. You see, it's a design and a reach. A design and a reach. Yeah. Now, what can increase that design and that reach? Something which can do the combinations of that. It's going to be this one here, not this one here. This one can take that new design and new reach and then explore it, experience here, and then have this increase here. Yeah. And it's very interesting that it's V. Why V is so interesting here? V, can you see? V. It's like the reach of an angle. So it's like the center that can increase the reach of the angle. See, so from here, we see that and we say, okay, from there, it can increase the angle. It's like also, at one point, we're talking about V as the Wi-Fi antenna. So what's it capturing? See? Okay, well, here, there's a good, you see, that center of articulation is what's going to increase, the design and reach of each particular consciousness, and that's going to bring it in. This is more a printing. Yeah? It's going to bring it in into its experience in a kind of physical projection, genetic projection, and there it's going to communicate with others. You see, because what is the door to the communication with others? The body. You see, that's the doorway to communicate with others. So there's a difference in the way that it administrates within each cell. Yeah. 5 here, or E, N, and V. Yeah. And more or less, and if you sum them all up, you have this beautiful number 84. 84 is one thing a word that sums up 84 is mentality. Now, this is very interesting that because a mentality is the end result of a whole construction, going from space-time structures, calendars, souls, genetic projections, and in that you have a mentality. It's the most complex. It's like It's like the house being built. It's like, you know, it has everything. It has the idea of the house. It has the plane of the house, you know, when you were drawing it and all that. It has the whole thing. It has it and it's all immersed there. So the most complex thing is actually to create a mentality, and it's an end result of all this. Because the mentality is very important, because that is the inner dialogue, the outer dialogue, the whole thing, and that's what's going to help being print into like printing a new brain. Because if we have to say a generation has, if it has one responsibility with the future generation, is to provide not the same brain. It has the responsibility of offering a new increase. So it's like the failure of a generation is when the next generation is going to repeat it. You see? Or it has to do the same kind of pathway. So like each generation has the package of the previous ones, and it has a responsibility with the next ones, because it has to provide a new ground upon which they can stand on and build their part. That's a contribution to the next generation that don't exist yet. Yeah. So a new mentality, we could say at the end. Yeah. A new mentality that's gonna print in a new brain, in the sense that more options, more complexity, yeah? Because that's what happens when something evolves. Now, another thing that's very interesting or important to take here is that now all the possible combinations that go through N and touch like that, even the ones that touch like that, okay, all these combinations that go through N, so we were saying that N is like the center administration of oneself, yeah. So the administration of that is very important, and see that all of them are going to sum 28. Like 27 plus 1, 28. 26 plus 2, 28. 23 plus 5, 28. So it is a point. It's like, you know, when you say looking for north, and north is an N, isn't it? And you say, okay, where's north? At least in Spanish, I'm not so in English, that it's like, if you want to find your orientation, is encontrar tu norte. It's like to find your, is it the same? It's like, okay, where's the N? So that is like, where are you with yourself? That is so key. That's the first place you can be honest, you can be like, where are you in your N? And from there, okay, I can start, but you have to, I think the area of responsibility is to locate where are you with yourself. That is the starting point. First of all, when you say myself, what are you referring to? Okay, I'm pretty sure we all know that we are humans on Earth. Okay, and I'm pretty sure you know that you're in a specific area, specific kind of territory, etc. So those are locations that are important. But where are you with yourself? And that's where that's the area of honesty is so important, because in your particular consciousness you can lie to yourself, you can deceit yourself and others. The problem, the one is I would say it's more functional criminal, but he's in honesty with himself, then, you know, so he's what is it? He's deceiving others, but the worst is to deceive yourself, because there you're completely lost. You're completely lost. If you're north, is going to be completely out of compass, you know. So that is like the key reference, that 14, you know, that in my 14 is interesting because it has 1 and 4, yeah, because it has kind of like physical projection and that kind of design, yeah, like these two bases. So that's the north, yeah. And if you can see a V, an N is kind of like a V that's, it's like a V that's down and a V that's up. So it's kind of like the position of that allows the spirit to see itself from here and from here. Is it? Can you see that in the N? Like, so you have a V, okay, and then you have an N, which is a V, but it's turned around, but it's together. See? So it's because probably most of you have this feeling, I have this feeling, that that it's like, it's the soul looking through my experience and the spirit looking through my soul. Like, both of them for me is a reality. It's not just a soul. It's like there's the nothingness is very present. So when my soul's seeing, I can see that that nothingness is seeing through the soul. Can you guys kind of feel that? So it's like a V, but it also includes that, yes, it is nothingness, but at the same time, it's also me. Is it? That kind of thing. So those are very important. Now, another thing that's very important is, where do these connect? Where do these membranes touch? This is important. Like when we talk about 7, 8, 9, okay, this is the kind of because in a way, we can say that each of them have their own no, which remember is non-expressed, their own negative, their own soma, so their own kind of like physical aspect, we can say. That's where it's tricky, because look, the soul of the soul is here, and then it's touching right at the genetic projection. It's that point of contact. The soul with the no of the genetic projection. So that which is not expressed in my genetic projection is the touching point of the soul, of the kind of soul body, that's where they connect. That's where they touch. And then the se is the way of se is it's like that future that you are moving through and that you're learning. Se in Spanish is to know. Yo sé is to know. Se. So it's no sé, okay, I don't know. But when you go from here to here, then it's like, sí sé, yes, I do know, because you're going through the Holy Spirit. So these points of contact, I think, are very important. So what would be the base ground of the soul is the area, the most it's like this is where it's becoming tricky. It's like, look, I think it's better to see it here. Here is more clear. Like, can you see that it's RST? RST. What happens if we use this 5 here, okay, which is in the genetic projection, okay, that anchor in the genetic projection, and we connect this and this, okay, we connect these two. What do we have there? We have a reset, RST. So where does the reset, which is the one that can reset? It is this area here of the space-time structures that can reset in combination with this one. And what is it resetting? this. It's resetting the angle of the particular consciousness. Yeah, and it's resetting the kind of the communication of the whole thing. Okay. So this area here of 7, of field 7, is the area of reset, and that's where that's where the spirit and the soul, when the soul touches the spirit, the soul is resetted. Always when with that with this 5 here. So whenever, that's why but when you reset, what happens? What is a reset? A change of the design and its reach. What happens if a soul, a particular consciousness, likes its design and likes its reach? Is like, I like it this way. It's not going to want to touch that reset point, because when it touches that reset point, it's a new design and it's a new reach. Can you see? It's like it stings a bit, because it's like deconstructing that that value of that soul. That's why the souls evolve. So it's like the way that the design of the soul is at this moment. It's not like eternally like that. You know, that's why it can get wiser and all that, but it has to have this point here. This is an option. Most of it comes through here from the bottom. That's where it increases. Yeah. Can you see? It's so clear. Like that's the point of reset. And we could say it's new oxygen. You know, it's the soul breathes. Not only your body breathes. Sometimes you notice that your soul, your particular consciousness, is breathless. So where did it have to breathe? Negative breathing. A breathing of an angle that goes beyond the angle of one's particular design. So it has to breathe from nothingness. It has to breathe from the dark. And that's where a lot of people have problems there. It's like, because this contact, seen from the point of view of the soul, it's like going into the dark. That's how it feels, like going into the dark. But when you start seeing that dark is just your future light, of course, there's always a bit of precaution, but it's kind of like, okay, I go into that. That's why it's not so easy, Laura. It depends on the soul. It depends on its journey. Depends a lot, but it's not so easy. Like it's not so easy to just contact with it. You know, okay, yeah, but the consequences, it's a whole dismantlement. So a lot of them is like, no way, I'm going there. It's like, let me put an example, like. A child, and you're saying go to the camp, you know, and it's a young child, very much never been out of home, and you know that if it goes to a camp during a couple of weeks, it's going to experience, it's going to learn, it's going to come transformed. Now, it's not so easy to say just go to the child. Maybe the child's like, no, I'm not going. Resistance. Okay. And that resistance, and if there is a risk of losing the biological manifestation, if the soul doesn't connect with the spirit, yes, totally, completely. You see, the whole thing, I don't think, like, the whole thing of death, it all depends on the circumstances. It's not like completely agreed. It all depends on is that the contract can be renewed during the physical experience. The contract can be renewed. It's not like, sometimes you hear this thing that it's already, when you burn, you know when you're going to die. That doesn't resonate. It all depends on, that's why you can also leave before you, it's like you can decide to die before what it was expected. because, you know, it's like you thought you could do, it's like the child goes to the camp and after the day says, no, mommy, I want to go back home. I really can't do this. And it comes back home and it's fine. There's no problem, you know, like, you see, that's also something that we have to relax about all this. There's no good and bad. There's no punishment. There's none of that stuff. There's just possibilities of learning. And the concept of, you know, damnation for eternity, mistake. You see, that's very mistake. No, there's errors. Not mistakes, there's errors. Errors are possibilities of learning. You know? Well, so completely, Laura, there is this is very much important for the renewal of contracts for this projection. Because remember, the soul of, for example, the earth, this here, which is like, we could say, let's just put the material aspect, is just the body of this. It's just a piece of the body, pieces of the body of this in its soul. So the one that has, like, the owner of the great banker of this whole game, remember, it's always space-time structures. It's and in essence and first of all, it's nothingness. That is like a hierarchy. That's a hierarchy that has to be recognized. All the contracts can be renewed in nothingness, and now, if you don't take this into consideration and only the soul's plan and its projection, then you are going to say there is a date of birth established. You see? Because you think that the one that's coordinating is the soul. Then you're going to say something like that. That means you're not really linking with this one, which can renew any contract at any time whenever it wants. You see, nothingness can always bring new space into the world. Because it has that condition. It has that essence condition of nothing. So now, I think this one's great. This one I think is great. Now, I'm saying this is the membrane of contact between these two. Can you see? This is the membrane of contact between these two. Now, which is the membrane of contact of this one? Where is the membrane of contact of XYZ, which is the upper field? Yeah, it's like the no and the ne of the environment. Which is the point of contact? This one. This one. This is very, 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 this is great. XYZ is like the coordinates. It's like it's the essential axioms. This is where it's all in this no ne of the space-time structures. That's where the XYZ is all configured. You see? Can you see that? XYZ is like the coordinates. The coordinates for what? For an experience, which is going to be projected and experienced at this kind of lower level, yeah, at this frequency of on this field 1. Now, do you remember that era in Spanish? If you sum up the word era, it's 78. Okay, 78. Now, if you sum up 25, which is X, 26, which is Y, and 27, which is Z, the number you have is 78. Now, where is the era configured in spirit? In this area of space-time structures, like in the environment, in the general consciousness, it configures the era. An era as a limitation, and when you limit it, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, but those mistakes are errors which are allowing you to grow, allowing a process of growth. So you see, 78, the era, where does it contact you? At the bottom, like that's why when an era takes place, your body feels it. Like that is the, I see that as a very pure communication. The environment, and it communicates directly in the lowest, in plane one. It's pure. That communication, I see it pure. So, and it's like that configuration of error, and the word communication in Spanish, communication is 123. So look how beautiful this is. It's like the error that which is configured, yeah, and this at this area, the direct communication of that. So the direct communication of this occurrence of spirits and the negative it constructs, that is XYZ, the direct communication is first like this, 1, 2, 3. And then when 1, 2, 3, then what happens? The soul, the reading of the particular consciousness, the administration of that, reads it and learns and grows. See? So that is like this. It's like it learns, it comes more from underneath. It's not so much from, it's not like so much channeling, you know, the like, which there is that element because there's a feedback here. It's not one directional. It's not like one direction is better than the other, because there is an other communication that occurs, which is this captation of, you know, what's, and it's a captation, and here it's kind of it downloads it in the physical expression, and then so it's more like this way. It's not so much this, but we are working with both. Can you guys see that? Laura? I think you put your microphone. No, don't worry. That communication there is great. You know, that kind of, this 9 and this 1, Psyche is 91, isn't it? Field 9, field 1. That kind of like purpose touching right at the root. And then, wow, that is really gonna teach you. You know, that's really gonna show you. First of all, you can't lie. You know, you can lie in this direction. You know, when it gets into the kind of soul, and the soul can do its own kind of like twisting around of what's been, and then it can do this. Because the soul is kind of like a reach of an interpretation of the spirit. Yeah? So it allows the spirit to have many interpretations. But it can adjust things to its own convenience, you know? The same way we see in politicians, well, the same way. And it can adjust to its convenience, and what happens? This stays the same. Now, when it's 9 and 1, you know what I mean? It's like the environment in your butthole, there you can't lie. There, the only option you have is to or close your eyes or open your eyes. Now, this is beautiful, because if you have V here and it's connecting with E here, you have this word which is ve. Ve is to see in Spanish. Ve, you see. So if you can allow this dialogue, you know, environment right in the, you know, right in the root, you know, that like physical roots, and you saying, okay, I'm in the middle learning, of course, and I know that there's also this captation and printing, okay? So both are happening, but sometimes you're going to focus more on one than the other. And for me, it's been very useful to do this one, because you can't lie to yourself. That's why it's so useful, you see? Like when the environment hits you, and it touches your skin, it's a lot harder to lie to yourself. But when you kind of capturing it and then translating it and then printing it, okay, there you can tweak things a lot. Now be, so to see, and who's seeing in this V and this E? Who's seeing? The soul is seeing something. It's seeing itself without self-deceit, without lying to itself, because why does it lie to itself most of the time? Because it has pain. It has the pain of the soul kind of thing. You don't hear of the pain of the spirit, do you? You hear the pain of the soul. So because it hurts, it doesn't want to see it, so it lies to itself. But in this way, it doesn't. And that's what frees the pain of the soul, when it stops lying to itself. It's kind of like, have you heard this thing of the worst pain is that of avoiding pain? You know, the worst pain comes when you avoid pain. Well, you see, that's actually, this frees a lot, because you can just say, okay, it's painful, I'm not avoiding it, I'm going into it. So this is, and when you put this is to see, and if you put the N here, it's ven, which in Spanish, it can mean two things, but I like one. Ven is like to come. Come, you're invited. Ven. So it's like, Laura, I know that in birth labor, there's this teaching that, look, this is a very good one, because it's kind of like, of course, what tends to happen is that it hurts and there's resistance and you're fighting against it. You know, it's like, I want it to go away. And probably that's what's going to take over, depending on your own maturity. Not to expect anything other than that. But there is this kind of people who start educating themselves of accepting pain and reading pain and accepting it. Like, more than pain, it's just a kind of feel in the body. And they train themselves before labor and with certain conditions and all that. And it can actually become so pleasant that they can have orgasms while giving labor to birth. You see? Because it's like allowing what reality is bringing to your body. And you're just allowing it and you're opening space to it. Now, you have to see what space, honestly, you have to do that. Because there's people that, if I tell that to certain people, they're going to say, okay, it's great, I'm going to go into labor. And then it's not that great, because they don't really have that space of observation of their pain. You see? But it'll be good if I can find a video about it. I remember watching it when Carla was pregnant, and we were seeing that. And it's just a pure acceptance of pain. So it stops becoming pain. It just becomes the needed energy that the body, you stop defining it like that, and you work with it, and it starts to become a very pleasurable experience. Apparently, I didn't go through that one. Okay, so be is to see, and then you see what is allowing me to see the communication, the direct communication between the environment and the root connection in the physical body. Yeah, because the best contact with this is one's body. You know, that's so the consciousness of the environment, using the body of the environment, and when it contacts directly, it's going to create a reaction. But then in that reaction, you can be, you can see, and then you can tell your kind of your own self. You can say Ben. So like Ben is like come into the experience, welcoming it, welcome it in, and then we all gonna grow. See? But the last one is N. So it's V-E-N. Then. See? First it's V. Yeah, like a uterus, isn't it? Let's see that. Then it's E, okay, so it hits the physical body that is administrated at that area. And then it's N, and you welcome it. And what happens there when you welcome it, you can see it better and you can learn from it better. And when the whole thing happens, what's going to happen? There's going to be this is going to open here, reset, and this thing. So there's this movement going on, but there's also this movement going on. Okay. There's also the movement of the particular consciousness, like one's a design, one's soul. Yeah, but and all these are interrelated, so it's not like out there. Okay. For example, my experience of nothingness is closer than close. It's not out there at all. It's closer than close. What I do recognize is because these aren't distances. These aren't distances. These are dimensions. This is very important. It's not like the soul is out there in soul world, and maybe you can feel there's a distance, but the reason is because you haven't brought that dimension into your experience. It's like you haven't, or it hasn't been integrated, so it seems like it's far away. But there's no distance between these at all. It's a level, it's an aspect of dimension. And what was I going to say? So there is this experience that you close up into your particular consciousness, and you just kind of like from your body you kind of close up, and there's this, you're just capturing something from the dark, from nothing, and then you got it, and then you print it this way. You see? Print it this way. So that's also a pathway, yeah. But you are involving, but naturally you will notice when to go into one direction or the other, when to go into one dynamic or the other. And it's not like David trying to capture the clarity that it has in its soul to avoid things. No, that kind of meditation to feel good, I'm not talking about that. You know? It's this kind of, to simplify it, you feel, you know what you feel when this happens in this dynamic? We could give them names to dynamics, probably that'll help, but let's say this capturing printing dynamic, yeah? Like this way. And this other one is detonating, like a detonating dynamic. What you feel is your body starts to really want to relax, you know, and maybe it's not necessarily because it's tired. It just wants to relax. It has nothing to do. It doesn't even want to watch a movie. It doesn't even want to eat. It just want to, and what Alejandra calls it a biological depression. So it's like it just wants to kind of fall, and then what you do with your particular consciousness, you allow it also to fall into the dark. And there, it's that this connects here, this reset here. A lot of people relax, but in their particular consciousness, it's not like falling, you know, it's not falling into the dark. It's still controlling its things going on there. You know what I've just seen? Like looking in English, you see that a W is like two V's also, but together, you know? Because, well, it's like the right of the center. It's like the potential that can increase this 5, yeah? And if we look at it like this, like a W here, and we look at it in this way, so I'm seeing it as a V, two V's, okay? Seeing it as two V's. We have new, something new. You see? Yeah. So something new is connecting this double V here, double V. How would it be? No, it'll be N E W, like that. Yeah, the new. So it's communicating this calculator of communication of the environment with one's own and with the communication with the rest and the others. Yeah. And another thing, how does the environment tend to communicate itself and kind of, you know, have that impact, that detonation? It tends to use others, doesn't it? What tends to detonate the blind spots of your particular consciousness? Relationships with others. That's what it tends to happen. You know, so the environment uses others and communicates this XYZ. Yeah, this era, which is really, you know, it's a new idea of its consciousness wanting to communicate directly. Yeah. So it uses others and the communicate, and who starts learning there? Oh, okay, now I can see my blind spot here. I can see my blind spot. What is that? It's the soul learning from that direct communication of the environment using others and entering into and detonating directly from the experience, from existence. So it's very important to welcome that detonating dynamic in. And then that other one, which is more like self-expression. It's like the one that it's capture here and doing that, it's more the other way around. It's like from within and self-express. And the other one is, yeah, we could say it's like the two breathing movements, isn't it? One is like environment impacts directly, and I take it in. When I take it in, because already the soul has the impact, you know, so it's already kind of open. It's vulnerable and it's open. So that vulnerability allows it to open within, capture something new, and then self-express it from within outside. Kind of like in that direction. So this, like, let's put this is the impact. You see? And this reads the impact. The particular consciousness reads the impact. It reads the impact and administrates it, and then it goes within. So then it goes this, and it captures. So it captures here, and then it self-expresses itself into the context. See? So they are all communicated, they're all interconnected. And one dynamic isn't more important than the other. It's just maybe you need, for example, in my case, I need to compensate it because I've been doing this one much more, you know, the self-expression. And so I have to compensate it with others. So whenever you want to compensate on the other side, you say that's good. It's like when you've eaten a lot of sweet stuff. And then, you know, and then after you're hungry, but you say, but I don't want anything sweet. It's like you feel rejection. There's nothing wrong with sweet stuff. Is that you need to compensate it maybe with something more savory. So it feels like you are in a how can I say, like a polarity, but it's just a compensation mechanism. Kind of feel that it's one more thing, and then the reach and I think this is the one, and this one. So okay, So within the communication with each of these, we all have a reach and we all have a limit, yeah? And then we have something which is a limitation, right? Do you remember these? I'm sure you saw it. They call it the millionaire exercise, yeah? So you put oneself and then you put the reach and the limit of the communication with the three maps, the three areas. So there's a zone of reach, alcance in Spanish. That's why also alma is a reach of a ma, a reach of a question. Yeah, the ma is a question. And then the area of limite, of the limit, that which is beyond the reach, and limitation is when both of them touch. Yeah. So what is very important is if one can begin to recognize. Did the images appear? Because it says here that my sharing is paused. Can you see the circles? Let me see.
Yes, I can see this.
Okay, because it said that my sharing was paused. So you have these. Alejandra said, okay, because a lot of people are like, well, how the hell do I do this? Personally, this is how it worked for me. Okay. For me, just by recognizing that there's an area of reach and there's an area of limit within the communication of each of these, just doing that already was a breathing, you know. And meaning I don't have to force anything. I just have to recognize where I am, you know. Because each of us are going to have a compensation. Because, for example, in my case, and most probably all of us here, because we are in a similar kind of direction, for me, the communication with myself is the one that is most natural. The communication with others is not the natural one. That's where I'm very limited. I have a lot of limits in the communication with others. Where I have a lot of reach is in the communication with myself. And I think is definitely increasing with this process, the communication with what we call environment, reality, the general consciousness. That is definitely increasing. So probably if I take it this way, I'm going to say, oh, but I want to be able to communicate better with others, you know? Okay, so that is fair. So I can say, okay, what I have in my reach is the desire to communicate better with others. What I have in the limits is a better communication with others. What this helps is just to recognize the position. When you recognize where you really are, that's where you start growing. You see, because if not, you're going to use your fantasy imagination and start saying that you reach something that you don't reach, and you go, because what has tend to happen in the human psyche is to exaggerate one's reach and to hide one's limits. That has been the tendency. So to self-deceit in a way, to show ourselves, you know, greater, let's just put it this way, greater and with very few flaws, yeah? Now, this is a psyche that cuts the communication. Why does it cut the communication? Because what reality and the environment needs from us is honesty in our reaches and our limits. Because only when it's honest, it can actually find where we are. That it's like if I tell Jeff, you know, I tell Jeff, I'm in Barcelona, but really I'm in Argentina. You know? And Jeff is trying to look for me. You know? Just imagine he can travel very fast. And he's in Barcelona and he can't find me. Why? Because I'm lying to him. Well, it's something similar like with environment. The environment always knows where your body is, but it doesn't always know where your particular consciousness is. You see? So that's why your body can't lie to the environment, but your particular consciousness can. So it's like the importance of honesty. Yeah. It's very important for the soul to be honest with itself, to be free in the way that it opens its communication with the spirit. And when it decides to print or to self-express itself in a social manner, the intention should be for the greatest good. This would be like three, I know it seems like values, but really it's more technical than value. It's like if the soul lies to itself, if the particular consciousness lies to itself, it's not going to be able to capture the environment in its consciousness. It's like closing the doors down to the spirit. Because the spirit doesn't care about your reaches and limits. It's not going to say, it's not going to go like, oh, very good. You have, it's not, it just needs to know where you are. You know, like that's why honesty is a technical issue. And mainly honesty with oneself is technical, because when you lie to yourself, that's where the communication with this top calculator stops. Yeah. So, so to discover that, yeah, for example, what used to happen with me, because the communication with others wasn't very developed, I tried to pretend that I had a greater reach than what I really had. Kind of like, you know how there's these people that are just naturals when they're in social environments, just naturals, just like, and we say those are the cool people, kind of like, because they just move naturally. Well, that is definitely not my experience, but I tried to create the image that was my experience. So what happened there? That happened that it created a lot of suffering, communication with others, because I couldn't just be who I was with my limits, my great limits. I couldn't just, because whenever you become honest with your reach and your limits, there's one thing that you're going to notice. You're going to be in balance. You're going to be in equilibrium. More than you're going to be stable. I think that's so as soon as I started to realize this mechanism of myself, and I started to just really recognize my reaches and my limits in the communication with others, what happened? I started to be more stable in social, more stable. When I was more stable, what happens? Naturally, certain limits started to become reaches. Yeah, but that happened because I was honest. I started to become more honest. I started to become more stable because of that honesty, and that allowed me to have a greater reach in the communication with others. You see? Look, another one. I'm not sure if I said this the other day, but you know what I noticed? What I did? Another compensation. Like, when I think I said this the other day. Like, when there's a gathering, a meeting, a party, whatever. And before you go to the party, it's going to be a good party or crap party. And why is that? You haven't been in the party, you haven't seen anybody's faces, you haven't seen the interactions, you haven't seen any of that, but you know that that's going to be a good party because you are capturing it from the environment. You see, you're capturing from the environment, you're capturing from an impersonal source, so you don't need to see anybody's angry or happy expressions. You just you capture it, you notice it. And what I notice is that when people are talking with each other in a table, I noticed that sometimes I couldn't read what they were trying to say. I wasn't very good at communicating with others. Yeah, But so how did I compensate? I would capture the environment of the conversation. So if I started to focus on the conversations, I would start getting very lost. But if I started to capture the environment, I would understand what was happening a lot better. So I compensated more in my communication with the environment than the communication with others. This is something that I think Asperger's kind of people do, or autistic also tend to do, beyond others, yeah. But they do that, you know, because they can't really understand the social conventions and the non-spoken codes, and it's very difficult. So what do? They become very, the whole thing that autistic people aren't, they're not empático. They don't have empathy. That's not true. Is that their empathy is more connected with the environment than with people. But they are hypersensitive with environment. That's why they very control. No, I don't want to go there. I don't, because they sense the whole environment. So that's not a very good definition. Okay, with other people, that not so empathetic. So the other person's crying and is like, "What's wrong with this guy? I don't understand what's wrong." But their empathy is just open up in a different calculator. That's what's happening. And it's also not going to be able to communicate with others. No. You're going to be able to communicate with others, but you're not going to be able to express your soul. You see? Like, if there's no honesty, you're going to share a lie. You're not going to share. You're not going to be a very good nutrient for the rest of people. Because you're going to be, if you're lying to yourself, most surely what you communicate to others is not your truth. Remember, the soul is a design of truth. And what the soul wants most is to be able to self-express its truth. Why? Because that is good for others. That is good for the earth. Remember that I said that we are like nutrients to the ground of the space-time structures of Earth, for example. Each soul and its own design of truth provides a nutrient. Now, if it's lying to itself, it's not bringing that nutrient out in its fullest capacity. You see it? So that's what's going to happen. It's kind of like people are going to, you know that feeling like it's like if he's not giving me a soul. It's like, it's just the whole, when people are very, the table manner, and they more focused on table manners, and if they're going to sound delightful, and they more into that. What happens? The soul just kind of dims down. That's another. They're too worried about others, so they start behaving. So it's a way of lying to themselves, because really the way that they wanted to, they would like to act in a different way, but they're not allowed. So it dims the soul. So that's why a lot of people that they have, it's not that they want to be loyal to their soul, is that they have to be. They have to. It's like they can't be incoherent with themselves. It's like, it's just too painful. So what they start avoiding social interactions, or this is a mature soul, or they start to knowing which social interactions they can bring their nutrients into. And it's not about avoiding others, is that they know that they're not going to be able to bring that nutrient there. So it's not social, you're not avoiding, you're just really becoming much wiser on where to to destine your attention, your time, or where you can nurture too. So you say, okay, here I can nurture. But there's areas that you notice that there's nothing moving me there. There's just nothing. So it's like dry land kind of thing. You notice that there's no nutrients, not that there's no nutrients there's no nutrients for you, for what you're looking for, in your journey, in your process, in your that's why the soul doesn't always get what it wants. Why? Because the reality is wider. So you see, that's the thing. Like the tree, the soul of the tree wants this, but what about the wood? Maybe it needs something that when it reaches your tree is not what your tree wanted, but it's what reality wanted. And if reality wanted it, actually it is what you needed. Maybe not what you wanted, but it is what you needed. Because the soul's going to move more by what it wants to what it wants. It's more like its value. It's what it feels strong about. That movement. But in reality, sometimes what it requires is you need things that you don't want. See, that's where this communication comes in handy, because this is going to provide you what you need, although you don't want it. So, guys, 2.5 hours, it's not too bad. I didn't go completely crazy because we started at about 15 minutes, then we had a break. So I did pretty well, yeah? I did pretty well. I'm not sure, like...
Bravo!
I'm learning. It's like, because you are my challenge, Americans, Dutch, like that's restriction in time, If it is Argentinian, it's like, don't worry. Okay. So you can maximize. Look, this is something very interesting about Argentinian people, and Laura will probably know about this. In Argentina, the Argentinians don't maximize. They don't fulfill their best qualities, like their potential. But when they go to a country that is more restricted, restricted in laws and things like that, they blossom. Like Argentinians do very well in Spain, for example, but they don't do very well in Argentina. And I think the main reason is because Argentina's kind of frequency, 5-4, it's much open. You see, it's much kind of, it hasn't got the restriction it needs. It's like it's still in the kind of soul area, that kind of woo. But when it goes to like 3, that kind of, well, then it starts to have this restriction, and then they maximize their potential. Yeah. Jeff's German background, oh God. And then you say you're Swiss also, like a Swiss grandmother, the other one was German, and you were born in the United States. And I was like, wow, that would be a challenge. Okay, guys. Well, I'll be sending the recording. I'll see how long I'll take to do this editing of the video. And hey, Molly, hello. I wasn't seeing you there.
Yeah.
So any questions like after this or things you want to share, just, open it up. And I think in general, we touched what I wanted to look into, I think the main kind of building blocks of this are there, set in place. What I feel is that there's a new psyche that the Earth is providing or inviting the humans Some humans are already opening up. They are in their Play Store. They are downloading the Psyche. That's what I think we are doing in anticipation. And others are not downloading it, so they are in a loop in their own telephone. It's like we are in different participations in this, but I think if something is connecting all of us here, is the building of a new human psyche, which is in parity with Earth, the solar system, with environment. Environment understood also as general consciousness. Yeah? And I think all of us here, in different ways, we are committed with this function. I do, like, you know, there's a soul group kind of thing, because the soul has this a common denominator, although there's a differentiation. I think that's that's what brings us together. This deep commitment to provide a new psyche for the human being, which is helping Earth connect with its resources. And if the Earth can maximize that, Earth is an organ of the solar system. So we're doing our parts for this commitment, you know. A new order, yeah, a new order in the organism. So I think this commitment is deep, and we know that just to come here to have a good time and experience, and which is part of the whole, but there's something more we're bringing. I think it's this. In this moment that we are sharing in the history of humanity, I think it's to contribute in the printing in our own bodies and the sharing of that print of a new psyche of the human, which can connect with the psyche of the Earth and provide new possibilities for the new generation. I think that brings us together here. Yeah. So thanks a lot. As soon as the recording's there, I'll share it with you all. Have a good Sunday.
David, that was great. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
David.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Like a bird on a tree,